Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm Betsy Potter. I'm with the Iowa City Downtown District, and just a little bit about me. I have been with the Downtown District now for almost 10 years, and tonight I'm just here to kind of give you an overview of what our organization does as a nonprofit, and then answer any questions you guys have. Hopefully I can answer them. But like I said, I'm Betsy. I've been back here in Iowa City now for 10 years with my husband and my 4-year-old son, and then one on the way here. So we love Iowa City. We're so happy to be back in the community, and I've really enjoyed working for the Downtown District this long. But like I said, feel free to jump in with any questions. I'll give a quick overview of what our organization does, and I hope you already know a lot of it. So our organization is a nonprofit. We're a 501c6, so we're not a charitable organization, but we are a nonprofit, and we are what's called a SMID. And I'm sure you've heard of SMIDs in the newspaper or in whatever reference, but there's a number of them throughout the state of Iowa. The oldest one is in Davenport. I think theirs is 20 years old or something like that, but there's a number of them. They're mostly in urban communities. They function very differently than a Main Street Iowa would, which are in rural communities, but they kind of do a similar type services for a lot of people. But what our SMID district looks like, so these are the boundaries here, okay? So anything within the yellow means that you're part of the Iowa City Downtown District, which is the name of our SMID, and that includes the Northside Marketplace, so that's up there by Polly's Pizza and Hamburg Inn, and then obviously a core of the downtown. It looks really wonky for a lot of reasons, but the number one reason is the University of Iowa. They're obviously not a taxed property, and so that's why a lot of this property over here is as strange as it is. They're not technically part of the Downtown District, but they obviously play a really key part of it. So our overall nonprofit gets about 40% of our revenue from the SMID, and in the state of Iowa, SMIDs are a tax district. So all of these properties in here, at least 70% of them have signed on and said, yes, we will take on an additional tax for the SMID to exist. So that's where the 40% comes from. The other 60% comes from, we get an investment from the University of Iowa. We throw a lot of events, as I'm sure I'll go over those later, but I hope you've heard of them. And then we also do a number of sponsorships and other type of engagements throughout the community. Our overall purpose is to make sure that downtown Iowa City and the entire district is a great place to be, no matter who you are now, in the future, and we really want to focus on, as an organization, the gaps that might be there. So the City of Iowa City, as a government agency, can only do so much, right? So we're here, and we're tasked to do just a little bit more, and that can mean a lot of different things, and based on what the priorities are of our property owners and our businesses in the community at the time, it looks a lot different. But a lot of times that means clean and safe initiatives. It can also just mean marketing towards the area. Like I said, we have two neighborhoods. There's the Northside Marketplace in downtown. It's all the Iowa City Downtown District, which is roughly about 350 members. So those are all of our businesses within the area, and then that's about 150 properties. It's one of the densest SMIDs that exist, and it's also one of the smallest. So I don't know if this quick video will play, probably not, but, which is totally fine. It's more like for me than anything. Okay. So like I said at the beginning, our organization celebrated 10 years this year, and I'm fortunate enough that I've been there for almost the entire time. Before, many of you might remember, it was the DTA, as they referred to it, the Downtown Association. And at the time, the DTA, a great organization, worked for many, many years. Their budget was very, very small, right? So it was about $60,000 a year. Now our budget is more like $1.2 million, right? So that's where we can leverage a lot more services. We can act on a lot more, things. We have 4 staff members before. It was a part-time staff person. So when my boss, Nancy Bird, came on board 10 years ago, she was tasked to kind of create the mission for this organization. So we just celebrated 10 years. There's a lot of achievements there, a lot of executive director, her role is really advocacy. She's tasked to run our board, to make relationships within the community, work with the city government, and then advocate on behalf of our property and businesses. I may not look like that anymore, but this was like previous 2 children and 5 years ago. But that's me. I'm the director of creative services. And then we also have Christopher Hunter, and he's our director of special events. And then Joe Riley, he's our nighttime mayor. And I think he might be coming to speak to you guys in a couple weeks or in a couple months here, so I won't go too deep into his role, but it's a fascinating one. And he's our second nighttime mayor. He was the first nighttime mayor position in the United States. Now there's dozens of them. So it's a unique position, and he does really great work downtown. So I thought this might be interesting for a lot of you, because this is what the last 10 years has kind of looked like in our eyes. A lot of things have changed if you've been downtown, or were downtown 10 years ago. And a lot of it has to do, not just with our organization, but what the community has wanted over the last 10 years. Obviously, there was a major pandemic in the middle of it. There was a lot of changes when it comes to our social service agencies. Shelter House has expanded enormously over the last 10 years, and the services that they're able to provide. We have a downtown movie theater. All of these things have really changed over the last 10 years. And so these are kind of a lot of the achievements that have happened with our advocacy milestones. And I can go through a number of them, but that's kind of what a lot of it looks like. This is the new to downtown timeline. We created this in the last year because we constantly hear downtown looks totally different than it did when I used to, go to school here, or when I, frequented downtown more often. 10 years ago, the Fieldhouse Bar, which is right on the Pedmall, was vacant. It has sat vacant for 10 years, and next weekend it will finally open with a new business. So it's been 10 years in the making. It feels really good to be there, especially for that location. But then there's also, things that have happened where the mill closed and the property is no longer there, or Active Endeavors has now left. So there's the ebbs and flows of downtown, but that's what we're looking at over the last 10 years, a quick snapshot. So overall, like I said, our organization, our mission and our values, what we're really here to do is make sure that the downtown, as you all know, downtown's gone through ups and downs many, many times throughout the years. And we are fortunate in Iowa City to have a downtown that's embraced by the community, not just university students. And we have a really good university partner that knows the value of the community with the integration of the university. So what we want to make sure as an organization is that the downtown district is the hub of the community. So when you think of Iowa City, downtown is like on the top of your list. So that's what we're really always trying to do, and we do it through a number of different ways. This is very, very small, and I will not go over all of this, but these are our core strategic drivers. If you're super interested, you can go to our website and read our full strategic plan. But ultimately, we work under 3 buckets of work. We look to welcome people to downtown, we look to shape the urban center that is downtown, and then we look to draw people to downtown. And all of our work has to fit under those 3 buckets. And all of the work that Joe does, Nancy does, Christopher does, all of it has to wrap up under those 3 things. And there's a number of ways to do it. So under welcoming, we have developed over the last few years a number of different initiatives. And when we say welcome, we want it to include everyone. So it's not just welcoming the new college students every fall, but welcoming new residents, welcoming people who might just come in for the weekend, so just visitors. We want to make sure it's welcoming for all types of people, all ages, whatever it might be. So under this, we do a lot of programs working with different agencies that already exist. And then we also do a number of campaigns, marketing initiatives. We do a number of public safety and clean elements to make sure that when you do get there, it is a welcoming space, not just with your wayfinding, but that you feel like it's clean and it's safe, and that you want to be there, you want to have lunch, you want to enjoy all of the elements that are happening downtown. Under our bucket of shape, this relates a lot more to businesses and properties specifically. So we see all of the businesses downtown as our members. You know, there's organizations like chambers and things that have you opt in as a member, but as long as you're in those district boundaries, you're a member. In some way, shape, or form, a property is paying the tax, so we see you as a member. We see you as an asset to the community. So a lot of our shaping, advocacy, and incentivization revolves around grants, revolves around relationships with our businesses and with our property owners. And we do a number of things like help with streetscape updates and kind of twist the arm of the city when they're thinking about doing things that might not be in the best interest of the community, the businesses, or the property owners, whether it comes to lighting and trees and things like that. But also incentivize better wayfinding signage or things that businesses might not be able to afford when they're first starting or when they're going through a rough time. We can come in with grants for signage. We can come in for grants for outdoor seating. We can help with a number of things like that that really impacts not just the business, but how downtown looks overall. And then, obviously, probably the most fun part of what we do as an organization and what I get to do a lot of is the draw. So we also want downtown to be exciting and authentic. We have a number of really authentic elements about Iowa City. That's what makes it such a special place. And we really want to always draw on it. So I always say, I speak to a lot of special events planning classes, and they are always asking, like, why do you do the events that you do, or why do you do the marketing initiatives that you do? And my answer is always, like, we are looking to make sure that Iowa City is as original as possible, and that we are welcoming people downtown, but we're having a really fun time with it. So we do events to make sure that we're marketing Iowa City. That's what we're doing always. And so we do that through a number of different types of events, or a number of different drawing initiatives. We do Taste of Iowa City, we do the Downtown Block Party, we do sidewalk sales, shop crawls, things like that. So those are all meant to drive specific audiences to specific businesses to enjoy their time downtown in a place and have an experience that you might not be able to have in other locations, right? We hope that the time that you have downtown is just unique enough that you can't have that same experience in a surrounding community. So these are a number of the really exciting and fun things we get to do. Like I said, we do a number of events and marketing initiatives, and then we do a ton of advocacy too. So that has been all over the board, and some are more successful than others, but these are a lot of the different audiences and people that we get to engage with all of the work that we do. And then I was excited to talk to you also about what we're currently working on. We have a large strategic plan. We have a large recovery plan. So after or during COVID, we obviously had to look at things a little bit differently. We came up with a large recovery plan for downtown for our businesses. We didn't really know what to expect. We didn't know if we should be looking at a 20% vacancy rate in 2022, or where we're at right now is a 3% vacancy rate. So we're in a really good location when it comes to vacancies. It doesn't mean everything's perfect when it comes to our tenants, however. So we have a lot of work that wraps up under those two initiatives, under our recovery plan and our strategic plan. And this is kind of more of my work because I find it the most interesting, obviously. But what we're really working on right now is advocacy always. We're advocating, there's a number of projects that are coming online, and we want to make sure that they work best for downtown, for our businesses, for the community overall. We're looking at a number of developments that are still popping up. It seems like where are we finding the space? There's space apparently. So making sure that they are in the best interest of the community as much as possible, as much of an influence as we can have. Dubuque Street is going to have a streetscape update next year, which will be short. It's just one block. It'll be super impactful to downtown, and it should have a lot of great positive impact on the overall look of the community too. So, advocating for those things. Retail, that's a major focus point, so I'll kind of go into that one in a little bit more detail. Our public space, we've been able to do a lot more with that over the last couple of years, and are looking to do a lot more with infrastructure. And then retail poor, but it takes a lot of work to keep them. It's very, very hard to run a retail brick and mortar, especially in the last 10 to 15 years, but it takes a lot of work, a lot of sweat equity. We have a number of small businesses, but it's really hard to compete, especially in an environment that has high lease rates. So for small businesses, it's very hard to be able to make it in communities like college communities like ours. So we put a lot of focus behind how can we support retail? How can we make sure that we still can go down and shop downtown? It's not just restaurant and bars. So we do a number of different things like that. A few years ago, we did an overall study, which was somewhat boring, but very informative on where we're at in our merchandise mix. And we're obviously very heavy on restaurant and bars, right? We could definitely use a lot more retail, but retail recruitment is very hard and it's super, super competitive. And 10 years ago, there weren't as many commercial areas as there is today. There's obviously commercial areas, popping up in Coralville and Tiffin and different areas in Cedar Rapids that didn't even exist. So we have a lot more competition, and it's a lot harder to keep them open here, especially with the online market and with COVID. And so what we do, and a lot of what my boss, Nancy, does, is she goes out and she recruits. And it's an old school method, but it really does work. And we've made a lot of headway on it. But she goes out and she visits communities, and she says, we love your store, we'd love for you to open in Iowa City, here are the resources we have, here's the information that we have on data, you belong here, this would be a great place for you. And so we have a number, right now it's kind of fun to talk about, but we only have a 3% vacancy rate, so we have a number of people waiting to open retail stores. We have no locations for them, which is kind of a bummer. So it's kind of a bummer. So when something opens up, we'll have a number of them, hopefully, that are able to wait. But they're all small, locally owned, or at least, within the state of Iowa, loaned retail. And our major focus there is menswear, because we have one menswear downtown. And we used to have a lot more, and it is a potential market, but it's very, very hard, and there's not a lot of them out there. So that's what we're actively recruiting for right now. With our services, we provide software data. We can tell you how many people walk by your store every single day, or your potential store. We can tell you, what demographics of people are coming downtown. So we have all that data that we can supply to potential retailers downtown. But it takes a lot of our work right now to recruit retail. And then we also offer a number of services, like our Downtown Delivers program. So anywhere in Iowa City, Coralville, Tiffin, West Branch, we will deliver from any store downtown. So if you were to order something, a book from Prairie Lights, they just let us know you ordered it, we pick it up, and we deliver it for free. It was a service that we started during COVID, and it's been wildly popular, and so we keep it up. And so it's free for the businesses, it's free for the customers. It's a program that we find very valuable because our retailers are supported. During COVID, a number of the retailers, they were doing their own deliveries, which, as you can imagine, is really costly and very time-consuming for people who are already dealing with staffing issues. So we've taken it on. We come out here a lot. If you're ever looking to order for our delivery program, and we do it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then during the holidays, we'll do it every single day. So that's a service that we provide. We have a downtown district gift card that we provide also at no cost. These are all just support services to make sure that our retailers have as many services that they can have, because you're competing against the Von Maurers, the Targets, the online world, right? So we're trying to somewhat level the playing field as much as we can for a town of 70,000 people. And then also we have an online market that we introduced during COVID, and all of these have stuck around for a reason. We've seen value, the community sees value, and our retailers see value. So we have an online store that you can order from, and it lists products from all over downtown, and then obviously we'll deliver it to you for free, or we can ship it out. So the retailers don't have to do anything, we take care of all of it. They just have to have the product available when somebody has ordered it, and then we deliver it for them. Or ship it to a family member. We get a lot of shipping during the holidays because they've ordered Iowa City merchandise and things. So that's kind of our retail program. It takes a lot Our public space work, and I can go into more detail. I'm sure people have more questions maybe about the public art, but I'll leave that. You guys can ask me as it comes. But a lot of the work in the last 3 years that I've been doing is public space work. We don't own anything downtown. The city owns it all, right? It's infrastructure or private buildings. And sometimes when you're working with city government, they have to be very cautious when they say, yes, let's do a fun initiative and a cool project. And so it's much easier for a nonprofit like ours to be able to do fun, exciting, experimental things. And so we've been able to do those over the last few years. Right here on the bottom, these are what is called our singing trees. So they went up last winter, and what those lights are is they hang from 6 different trees downtown, and then they respond to noise. So someone can be standing below it, and last year we had a couple cello players playing, and the lights changed color and changed rhythm based on the sound. You could just be walking by and clapping your hands, and the lights would change their patterns, their colors. We can program them, whatever it might be. But after the Penmall renovation, our trees looked pretty sad downtown. So we wanted to make sure that during the winter time, it's a welcoming environment. It's happy. You want to go shopping down there. You want to spend some time at the library. You want to, go to the bread garden market. So these are ways that we're trying to impact the public spaces without physically investing millions of dollars like is required for infrastructure improvements. So those are our singing trees. It was just 2 years ago, but we installed that lighting installation in an alleyway there. It's behind El Rey's and Studio 13, which are 2 very active bars, and it was one of our most problematic alleys for safety. So there's a lot of alcoves and things like that people can spend time in, that can be kind of unsafe during the evening hours, and a lot of times what just is required for safety is let's put some light on the situation. Let's make sure that people can't hide. And so what we did with a couple artists and with an architecture firm, because also floodlights are ugly, there's nothing to be gained from just shining a whole bunch of light on an alley that might not always be the cleanest. So we installed a light arrays in that alley, and they change color based on the patterns of people moving throughout the alley. So if a bike rider goes from this end of the alley to the other end of the alley, the lights follow that person. And there's always light in the alley. It's beautiful. It looks really, really nice. And then at 1 a.m., when all of the bars, are starting to shut down, it does go bright white. So the alley is well lit. It is safe. We've gotten a lot of really great feedback from all of the bars and public safety that it has been a great resource to the alley overall. And it's really fun light, installation too. Jason Snell's the artist there. And then, like I said, I'm 6 months pregnant, so this much talking is like getting me out of breath a little bit. So thanks for dealing with that. But and then this one will be coming online in about a month. So the other alleyway there, alleys are always the thing, right? But we really only have 3 major alleys in downtown that get a lot of traffic. So our other alleyway is behind the library, behind the Englert, and that one gets a lot of traffic, and it also needs some major safety improvements. And we have a large, condo building that's attached to it, and it's been a request by the property owners, by public safety, and the community, just like, hey, how can we improve this alleyway to make sure that people feel safe traveling through it, because it leads right to our pedestrian mall. So we are going to be installing that large light canopy over top of it this fall, and that will span about 120 feet, and that will also be interactive. So we can change the programming, it can follow people, it can respond to sound. All of this technology exists, and it's very, very accessible now, so we might as well be investing in it. So another light project. We're heavy into light projects, but it really, really helps in a lot of ways. It's really beautiful, looks nice in the wintertime, and then also, obviously, it's a safety issue. And then lastly, with our public spaces, this is just a rendering. I was hoping I could have a picture of the new downtown playground, but it's very delayed. So that's what the new downtown playground will look like. If you've seen the old playground, it was very muted, it needed improvements, and so we were able to sit on with the City of Iowa City Parks and Recreation came to the new playground. And one of those is shade. We have a major issue with shade. Like I said, it's very sad on how many trees had to come down during the pedestrian wall update because they were sick or they needed to be removed because they weren't going to live very much longer. So we are in lack of shade right now, and it's very hot in the summertime. Right? And as a parent with a small kid, when you sit there, it's hard to use the space in July. So there is going to be a large shade structure over top of a lot of the playground, which is amazing, and we're really, really excited for that to come back. You know, an urban playground is a rarity, and we are really, really lucky to have it in the middle of the pedestrian mall. So, another public space update. And then lastly, our cultural and entertainment. So, about a month ago, we were officially designated as a cultural and entertainment district with the state of Iowa. There was a former district designation, but it involved, the boundary was like almost all of Iowa City, which isn't very specific. And so we, as an organization, applied to be a cultural and entertainment district, specifically pretty much for just downtown. So this red, or this little pink outline there, is what the cultural and entertainment district boundary is. We obviously try to involve as much as possible. Some things that we couldn't involve was like Hampshire, because they were way out far by the river. We try to keep it as dense as possible. But as you can see, all of these little dots here are a culture or entertainment item. So that is an incredibly, incredibly dense area, and we probably have the best application, I'm hoping, through the state of Iowa with all of our cultural and entertainment venues and attractions. You know, that includes the museums, the libraries, the galleries, the fact that we're a UNESCO City of Literature, public art, and murals, and things like that. So this is brand new. We just got designated. It was announced in August, and then there will be a number of different initiatives and work that our organization, with all of our arts and cultural partners, we're going to be working on pretty heavily to make sure that everyone knows that we're a cultural and entertainment district, and that this is really the greatest small city for the arts. So we're going to be working on that pretty heavily, but then we also do a number of support for local artists. So we have a number of public art programs through our organization. The Benchmarks program has been around for 10 years. It started as something where we had artists paint all of the benches in downtown. But when the city took away most of the wooden benches, it's now become more of a gallery by the library. And we still run that program. It's kind of an introductory program for public art, so if you've never done a public art project before, it's a really good way to start. And then we also do a number of mural projects. So I think there's over 20 downtown murals, and every year we try to add to it. It's a challenging program to run because we want to make sure we're supporting the artists as much as possible, and that we are getting them from all over, but also that we're focusing on local art and local artists. So these are two new ones that are just came up in the last month. We have Genie Bowling. He's a well-known Iowa Cityan. He's moved away for a little while now, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's working on the Iowa City Boombox, and that will be, it's on the site of the downtown film scene, and it overlooks the pet mall there. And that'll be done at the end of October, and he's working really hard on that. And then we also have Drew Etney, who works with our public art coordinator, Thomas Agren, and they designed and just installed that very fun, quirky mural on the side of Ray Gun in downtown. So that's the corner of Washington and Dubuque Street. So those are the two most recent public art murals. We have a number of them, and if you're ever interested in the entire map, we have one on our website, it's just downtowniowacity.com, public art. You can look at all of the artists, all of the murals there. And then we are also trying to make sure that the community is able to access the murals as much as possible, or access our art as much as possible downtown, because a lot of it is on private buildings. We don't put anything in the public area. So how can we make sure that people can access it? So in the next couple months, we'll have a software program where you can text or scan a QR code, and you can interact with a number of our murals downtown, have a conversation with them, ask, hey, why is that quirky corgi in a spacesuit on on this mural, and it will respond to you over text message in your language that you speak. It can read text to chat, things like that, just to make sure that our art is as accessible as possible to the community. And then we've also done a number of temporary art installations downtown. So I don't know if anyone remembers or heard of Creos. We brought them into the community twice. We had these large, big red swings this last summer. They traveled into the Ped Mall. They were there for a month. It's a company out of Canada. But traveling temporary art installations have become all the rage throughout the world. And so we've been trying to make sure that we have a new, fun, engaging artwork that people can engage with every summer. So this year we had New Casa, that was the red porch swings. And then the year before we had what was called the Loop. And it was a big cylinder item that you sat in, and you went back and forth, and it would play a comic strip on the big seats and cylinders there. And then we're looking at other installations for next summer. They're becoming harder to get because everybody wants them now. But then we do a lot of those temporary art installations too. And those are less local, those are more international. And that was all I had. I probably talked a little too fast, so I'm happy to answer any questions, or if there's anything that I really, really missed that I can go into more detail on.
Schedules.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, I just can't get over this.
Good. That's great. Yeah.
I got a question. We're old-time, I would say, people, that's pre-urban renewal. That'll give us an idea. Do you ever find yourself in what you do in competition with other parts of Iowa City? For example, Sycamore Mall has had its ups and downs, and yet apparently somebody's bought the mall. So, do you get? Does anybody take an overall look at Iowa City and see whether areas are complementing each other or hurting each other?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a conversation I think that happens regularly, not just amongst our organization, but amongst our economic development partners, that we have with the city. Overall, downtown has always been the hub, so it's an easy argument to make sure that we're focusing on the core of what the community has been, but also we have a lot of want for other neighborhoods to be successful. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard about the new South District SMID. That's been getting a lot of press lately. That's over in the Pepperwood Plaza area. Our executive director has been helping them create their bylaws. She's on the board and things, because we know, as with all other communities, but really the neighborhoods of Iowa City, is that everyone should rise together, right? And so our goal, especially because downtown's fairly privileged, right? We have a 3% vacancy rate. We have the University of Iowa. We have a lot of resources. How can we make sure that we're supporting other neighborhoods so that they're successful? Because it does not help us if Sycamore Mall is dead. It just doesn't help us. It doesn't encourage people to come to Iowa City. It doesn't encourage people to want to live here. It's the same thing with, Coralville, North Liberty, everywhere. We want the entire area to be successful. We do specific initiatives in downtown, but overall, neighborhood development is still a major initiative of ours too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wondered what, if anything, you do to help mitigate, I guess, the high rental rates for really, really small businesses that just want to start out, and the rents are huge here.
Yeah, it's hard because some of it's legal. We can't help with a lot of the rent. We don't own any properties, and property owners are really able to do whatever they want. But a lot of it comes down to relationship building. That's what we've realized. We need to know our property owners downtown and let them know how important certain spaces are. We have a number of property owners that don't live in Iowa City, so they get their check, they have no idea what's going on, or they're in a trust. And so a lot of the relationship building is mandatory to make sure that when a business goes out, that it's not filled with a head shop, right? We don't want that. That doesn't do anything for the community. That it's filled with a really quality retailer, restaurant, whatever it might be. So we do a lot of relationship building. And then where we can come in as an just starting out, we have a lot of really good examples. They're just starting out, they think they can make it work, but they cannot afford that signage, or they can't afford any marketing. And we know signage is like 60% of your marketing. So if you have no sign, or if you have a crappy sign, it's not going to do anything for you. So we come in and we say, here's our programs that exist. We want to help you. We want to make sure that you're successful. And then we also have a number of committees and mentors in our organization that can help a number of businesses. So there's a lot of wonderful and successful businesses downtown, and they want to help others, right? So the cluster is important, and the relationships really are important when you're starting out. We have a brand new baby store downtown, and she's doing wonderfully. She loves it so much, and a lot of it has to do with the relationship she was able to build before she decided to open, because she knew friends, she knew people who were willing to share information, she knew she could make it because she built those relationships ahead of time. So it's not accessible for everyone. I will not tell you that it is, and it's not the cheapest place to run a business, but there's a lot of foot traffic. And if you do your research ahead of time, there's a number of businesses that are, really there to support you, not just our organization, right? So that's kind of that's how we help with that high rent or triple net rent that happens a lot of times. We can't control it, it's all capitalism, but we try to help as much as possible.
Oh, great, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Summer of the Arts one of your programs, or do you just coordinate with them and help them?
So Some of the Arts predates us. They've been around for much longer, and I think, it started off with Arts Fest and Jazz Fest, and then they became Summer of the Arts. And I believe a number of our property owners and board members helped create Summer of the Arts, but they predate us. They're a nonprofit that just does that kind of programming. So we definitely want to support them and make sure that they are, using downtown Iowa City and that Arts Fest and Jazz Fest happens, but we don't do any of that hard work, that they do. And we're happy for any concert series happens. It's great. Sure.
Well, I know Gallery Walk, which is happening Friday night.
It is.
You've taken over, thank you.
Yes, we have. We're very happy to have Gallery Walk, and it's a fun one. It's a very busy weekend downtown. We have a new film festival that's happening at Film Scene, and that's a big one. And then the book festival is obviously happening with a number of things. There's a dance festival happening. There's Gallery Walk on Friday. There's Oktoberfest on Saturday. So it's very, very busy, and it's a well-programmed community, sometimes to its own fault. But there's a lot of things happening, and we're really happy that they're happening, where they're happening for sure. Yeah.
One of the things that we moved here 2 years ago that I'm in absolute shock about, the Nolte Academy at James Theater, they are having an academy over the Bury Square. The Engler, has that expanded or I don't know what's going on there, but there are so many things going on. The film scene, it's just amazing.
Riverside Theater's new space.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh yeah, Riverside, it's beautiful. Yeah, and Nolte, they'll be enrolling students next fall at Icon, is what it's called, and it's the new Performing Arts High School. That would be in the former James space.
Right.
Yep, and so that's a big deal. We're excited because we have an elementary school in downtown. I don't know how many people know that, but it's called the Tamarack Discovery School, and it's located in the Clock Tower Plaza, so that's right next door to Zen, across the street from Akar, right on Lynn Street. So there's an elementary school, now we're going to have a high school downtown, and that really kind of creates that full circle life for, what we want to do. We want to make sure that everybody's coming downtown for a number of different reasons. So you're right, yeah, and the James is great. That was great that it was preserved as a theater. Riverside, these are all, that's why that map looks a little crazy, because there's so much going on, and there's so many amazing things. The mill is gone, but there's but it will be back. There's plans to make sure that when the new building gets built, there's a new live music venue there. So it takes a little while, but there's a lot going on always. Yeah.
Would you go over that thing about the arts again? I guess I'm just interested in that so much.
Sure. designated areas. But the Stanley Museum opened this fall. That's a big one. The Voxman has been there for a few years, but that's the University of Iowa, the music. That's another big one. There's obviously 2 locations for Film Scene now. They work a lot out of their Chauncey location, but their Pet Mall location is still very active, and they're beautiful spaces. Riverside Theater has been open now for a year, I want to say. Maybe just 6 months. But they're on the 2nd level above what was Soap Opera and above Revival, and it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. The lower structures below it are restaurants, and they are, they're better than they were for sure. And then we also have the new brewery that'll be going in, and that opens supposedly next weekend. So that's a massive venue, and they will have live music there too. And then the James, that's the one that took over the Riverside Theater space on the north side, so that's adjacent to Bluebird Diner.
Right.
Yep, and that's owned by the Multis, and the Multi Academy, who's opening a high school, which is Icon. That would be in that's the Fine Arts School. So there's a number of new things. I'm sure I'm missing some of them for sure.
I'm sorry, I'm finished.
No, you're fine.
What is this great school downtown you're talking about? Is that
It's
a fine arts?
No, it's called the Tamarack Discovery School, and so I think it's more, I don't know, I've toured it before, and it's beautiful. It's a 2-story facility. It's grades K through, actually they just introduced a preschool, so it's preschool through 5th grade, and they have around 10 to 18 students a class. They spend about 50% of their day outside, no matter the weather, and then they spend another 50% of the day in the classroom. So that's been there for 2 or 3 years now.
Wow.
Did you have a question?
Yes. Do you have any background in whether Iowa City approached Target or Target approached Iowa City, or anything that, because you say you're actively looking for businesses, was that what happened?
So that was a recruitment by the property owners. And the Target and department stores and large chains are incredibly onerous and long to recruit, and a lot of times there has to be a large cash value when you go to recruit them, and so that was an initiative of that property owner that went out for Target, and I think it took a very long time. And it's been great, and they love that location, and I think the property owner's been very happy with the way it's turned out. But yeah, that was a property owner recruitment for sure.
But I know that Target has been going into college towns.
Yep.
And that was just
Yeah.
happened to match.
Serendipitous, right? They know a lot of times when you know these type of locations are looking, you want to be on the forefront to make sure that they're ending up here as opposed to, downtown Ann Arbor type of thing. Yeah. Other questions? I hope this hasn't been too scattered. It's a lot to talk about.
Well, this is an absolute joy to see.
Oh,
I
good.
just enjoy it.
I'm glad it's not depressing or anything. That would be This is, I know the public art was really the reason a lot of you were interested in hearing from us, and there's a number, it would take me forever to go through our public art, but we are working on a couple things that you might be interested in if you're downtown. We are going to be doing some historic building walks that are either self-guided or you can come with our tour guide. We're doing the literary walk. We're doing a literary pub crawl, which is a little bit different, but they're walking around a whole bunch of the literary haunts within downtown. And then we have an art walk too, so you can see all of the murals, what artists did them, what was a mural that may have gone away for whatever reason. But there's a lot of public art that if you ever want to know more.
Has there been much push? I know several people from the other side of the university that come on bus to go downtown. Has there been any effort to make bus service? The bus service is great, but just to incentivize people to come on the bus.
Probably the best incentive is how hard parking is. You know, like if you have a hard time parking, you want to find another.
You need almost a driver and a runner to go.
Yeah. And so that's always the best, like, you know, from an urban and regional planning, like, initiative, when you have a hard time finding parking, people will find another way to get there, right? So we have a number of people that walk and bike downtown, and like 8% of Iowa City's population commutes via bus.
Good for
It's
you.
not a large portion, but our bus systems are very quite good. Yeah. But probably the best way to motivate people is with their wallets. So they, you know, you get charged downtown to park, and you don't get charged necessarily to like ride the bus sometimes, and if it is, it's a low cost, and definitely don't get charged to bike or walk. So,
And my son heard Christopher Ackerson got all those bike lanes downtown.
that's great. Yeah, the bike
And
is
they're
great.
crazy. He didn't really,
That's a
everyone
wonderful.
is so proud.
That's great.
Are these various events you were referring to, are they, is there information about them on your website? Are they all in,
Yeah.
a pull-down menu, or?
We have, we do our events, and then there's obviously a million of other events that are happening. So we have an events calendar that we try to populate that includes everybody. So the library, the senior center, the James, the Angler, and so that's downtowniocity.com. Super easy to find. Events calendar should have all of the events. And then our events, which are like, they're driving events into, or people into the businesses, those are also on the events calendar on our website. And you know, they each have their own goal behind them, but they're meant to drive people into the businesses. That's always what we're trying to do with our events. So if you're looking for events, our website and our calendar is probably one of the best because it's comprehensive. And you know, we're working with our cultural and entertainment partners to create just a cultural and entertainment calendar because it gets pretty full pretty quickly because there's so many things going on. But if you just have a cultural and entertainment calendar, it might be a bit more curated. So that's on the docket when it's coming to, yeah, but there's a lot going on. Always.
That's under downtowniowacity.com.
Yep, pretty easy. You can find out pretty much anything about us. We're an open book on that website. You know, we obviously have social pages, Downtown Iowa City on Facebook, on Instagram. We don't really use Twitter necessarily, but that's where we do a lot of more like what's happening right now. Yeah. Any other questions?
No, it's been a beautiful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. That's so nice. You're so complimentary. Yeah. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I do think that Joe from our office will be here eventually, and he, like I said, he's our nighttime mayor, and he'll go into depth about the nighttime mayor position, what he does, and then